Welcome to Cover Art Fail! Tonight's episode in Fail, Bionic Commando.
Man, I really have been on Capcom's case lately, but I think the score I've shown them has been fair. Plus, in the end, I'm a fan of most of the games they come out with. I grew up with some of their classic games from the 8-bit era and beyond. They always hold a place in my cold, cynical gamer heart. Case in point, Bionic Commando. I'm an absolute freak about Bionic Commando. I don't think you can really grasp how big a freak I am of this game. Big enough that I fantasize about removing my arm and putting a hookshot in its place? Big enough that I'm going to name my first 3 kids after the main character? Well, maybe not that big. As a kid, I couldn't get enough of the game. I didn't care about the fact that you couldn't jump or that it was hard as hell at the time. I just loved it. From its cool cinematic, by 8-bit standards opening, to its head-exploding conclusion. It inspired my first video game research project. I looked deeper into what the game was really about and found to my amazement that it was actually one of the most censored games in video game history up to that point. Censored in that all the Nazi imagery was replaced by more family-friendly Nintendo fare. Although no amount of Nintendo fare in the world could cover up the fact that the final boss was Hitler. Everything from the music, to the characters, to the setting was timeless to me. Especially the man more manly than Chuck Norris, Terry Crews, and Zangief combined, Nathan Rad Spencer. After all, he is the Bionic Commando. And you would think with great video game characters comes great cover arts, right? Well, if you watch even a millisecond of this show, then you know that axiom doesn't hold up. Spencer's had some trouble over the years with his cover art depictions. The original NES cover art isn't necessarily the best representation of old Rad Spencer, but it's still frickin' awesome. It did keep in with the same style as its parent arcade version. I don't know about you, but I've always had a Han Solo vibe from this guy here. Other versions of the game were ported over the Game Boy with mild success and even more schizophrenic idea of what the main character looked like. They just didn't feel the need to portray the covers with Rad Spencer, a guy with some sweet Ray-Bans, green fatigues, and a surgically implanted grappling hook for an arm. It wasn't until the release of the remake Bionic Commando Rearm that we finally got the perfect look for Rad. Not only did the game keep the awesome gameplay of the original, not only did it come with enhanced graphics, not only did it come with a kick-ass remix version of the soundtrack, it also came accompanied with the news of the next-gen version of Bionic Commando that would be a direct sequel to the original NES game. I couldn't wait to see what Capcom had in store with this version and was eagerly anticipating the game. That is, until I caught my first glimpse of the cover art. Okay, for those who don't like naughty language, I suggest you skip through this part. What the flippity-flop piece of monkey excrement oozing out of the gaping crevice of a farm animal's private area on a hot day in the underworld is going on here? Yes, your eyes don't deceive you. You are viewing what Rad Spencer looks like circa 2009. What a difference a few months can make, huh? Maybe we can shed some light on this cover if we analyze the setting for this new Rad Spencer adventure. The story takes place 10 years after the first game, in which Spencer helped to defeat Project Albatross and the evil plans of the Nazis. I mean the Nas. I mean the Bads. I mean the Imperials. Apparently Rad's heroic deeds weren't enough for him to be accused and convicted of murder and sent to a military prison. Eventually a situation arises that suits his expertise and he's paroled by his old friend Super Joe to take on the bad guys. Alright, enough background, back to the cover. Apparently he decided to follow the archetype of the typical jaded ex-hero convict and begin lifting tons of weights and becoming as big as a brick shithouse, developing a salty attitude to everyone around him, and growing dreadlocks. Oh wait, that last part isn't part of the archetype because it's frickin' horrible! Rad Spencer's not supposed to have dreadlocks! Spiky Japanime hair maybe, but not friggin' dreadlocks! That is not a good look on anyone, except for maybe a Predator, but not on Rad! That's the main thing I see here when I look at this cover, his stupid hair. I might be able to forgive his very emo-like pose there. After all, he can't be the original smack-talking Rad after being wrongfully imprisoned by his own people. That would make anyone sullen. I might even forgive the fact that there's nothing in the background. I mean, who needs to see the immense expanse of Ascension City where you have free reign to go anywhere, except for all the billions of radiated zones? No, I'd rather see a dark palette behind him to make him look even more likely to wax poetic about his allies' betrayal. Yeah, I can forgive all that, but I cannot and will not forgive the dreadlocks. And it defies logic on multiple levels. How you say? Well, in the intro to the game, it's established that Spencer spends most of his time in prison in total isolation without his bionic arm. In fact, he doesn't even have another kind of artificial arm. So how the hell does he braid his own hair into dreadlocks, huh? I bet you never thought of that until now. Are we to believe the guard braids his hair? And that kind of braid has to be maintained regularly. Does the guard keep coming back to fix his hair? Or is it the fact that Capcom wanted to totally reinvent Rad by getting a 90s alt vocalist to voice him and emulate his style, thereby destroying the very image? Yeah, I'm going with the latter on that one. And his whole posture makes me irritable too. I know we live in an era of the ambiguous protagonist who might be just as hated as he is potentially loved, but that's not what Spencer is. He's an icon of a begotten era of gaming, the smack-talking, joke-cracking action star that the 80s built their decade upon. It's the clearest example of Capcom using the best of intentions to update a character and then driving it straight to hell. Because that's what the road to hell is paved with, get it? It's as if Nintendo wanted to tweak the image of a character like Mario for this era and ended up coming up with artwork that made him look a lot like the Swedish Chef. That's how big a sin that this cover art is to me. God, I think there's only one place this image of Spencer might be acceptable.
On planet bullshit!
In the galaxy of this sucks camel dicks!
I can understand how some of you feel that I've been a little bit too harsh on this brief review of this cover. And granted, this isn't the worst of the Bionic Commando covers. That award might go to either this European cover, or maybe this one. But it's the principle that I'm sticking to for this one. And I do know the adage that we live in the age of the internet where people view, review, and spoil all the latest games to the masses, and that cover art has basically lost its influence. But I don't see it that way. This cover art stuck with me during my playing experience. All through it, I attempted to enjoy what I was doing in the game, swinging gaily around, slamming into soldiers, and that was okay. The story, though, was its main downfall. It literally made me cry at the end. Not because it was a sad plot, but because of where they took Rad as a character. And don't get me started on how the game ends. It literally just made me cry. I'll just say that. And it goes all the way back to this initial cover art. The good news is that Capcom has decided to release a direct sequel to Rearmed and bring back Rad to his true form. It's just a shame that his revamped, with enormous quotation fingers, version has to exist, with its character-destroying cover art of fail.